and welcome to Perspective. We'll be talking about, of course, the name for the caretaker CM in Punjab is expected very soon from the EC. We'll be talking about a little later on after it is finalized whoever the CM Punjab will be, how things will proceed, because clearly at this time there is no accord between the opposition and the government. Again, we are looking at the opposition as far as PTI is concerned, the former Prime Minister is concerned, calling for his people to come out for protests again. What kind of a scenario can we expect now that we've seen his call for elections in the centre doesn't seem to be, is not being heard like perhaps was expected by the PTI at this time? What can we expect now in the centre? What can we expect as far as the government and the opposition is concerned, further to formulation of a caretaker setup in Punjab is concerned? We'll be talking about that a little later on. We'll also be talking about Pakistan's human rights record improvements, which related to rights of minorities overall as far as human rights violations in Pakistan is concerned. Of course, this is great news. We'll be talking about with the someone from the ministry about details about where we've made headway as far as coming down on human rights violations is concerned, rights of minorities is concerned, all of that today on Perspective. I have with me Sadiqul Farooq from the PMLN to start off with. Sadiqul Farooq sahab, can you hear me? Sadiqul Farooq sahab?
Yes.
Sadiqul Farooq sahab, like I was earlier saying, we don't know who will be the caretaker CM in Punjab at this time, but regardless, there are, at this time, even before a name is announced, we are hearing calls for protest again by the former Prime Minister, the PTI chairman, Imran Khan. How do you look at this now? Of course, we've also had the Prime Minister say that, this is clearly a move to destabilize Pakistan. How are you looking at things now in this kind of an environment?
Thank you, MAHRUKH. It is a constitutional process. If constitution is violated, only then the PTI leader or others may protest against it. But if it is strictly in accordance with constitution, then such demonstration or criticism will be tantamount to causing harm to Pakistan and its stability. I think if they move courts, then the courts keep in view the constitutional provision should summarily reject such a petition.
Sadiqul Farooq sahab, I'll come back to you. We also have Shandana Gulzar Khan from the PTI. Shandana, can you hear me?
Assalamu alaikum, I can hear you.
Shandana, there's at this time we don't know who will be the caretaker CM. There's no name that has been decided. It hasn't come out. But even before a name does come out, there are calls for protest. You are again, I believe, the PTI is geared to coming out. Imran Khan Sahab has said that you will protest. Before a name is announced, why? And is it because the expectation for there to be some, more pressure in the centre is perhaps hasn't been met?
Thank you, MAHRUKH. Before I answer that question, let me take you back to the sort of, if you'll allow me this word, the carnage of the constitution that has taken place in this country as of the 7th of March 2022. Every rule in the book, in the constitution, in the law, in the Election Commission Act, has been thrown out of the books. Every book has been burnt to smithereens in order to facilitate General Bajwa, to facilitate PDM, to ensure that all their children get scot-free from the criminal cases, to make sure that all criminals in Pakistan are running free and loose, including Uzair Baloch. And unfortunately, PDM is not one to talk about the constitution and the rule of law. Unfortunately, far from it. Now, let's come to your immediate question about CM Punjab. Yesterday, 2 days ago in KPK, PTR has little or nothing in common with JUIF when it comes to ideology, even little with ANP. And yet we were able to reach, for the sake of our problem, an agreement on who we both parties feel are is a decent human being, somebody who has been true to Pakistan and has no murky shadows in his past. Now, contrast that with the names provided by PDM. One, an officer, a civil servant who was openly known to be a PMLN person who spent a number of years in jail under
But
NAB
Chandana, you've
investigation.
also given names, right?
Let me complete. Please let me complete. And the second fellow is somebody who's openly seen in Avonfield Avenue in London with Mia Nawaz Sharif and his Zardari house. Now, the issue is the following. Is one to believe with even a modicum of common sense that PDM could not come up with two names that are widely respected in Punjab by PTI as well? Because PTI has shown and proven its flexibility in KPK that once a decent name is produced, we will accept without any noise. It is PDM at this point in time that is insistent. And you have the example of Najam Sethi, Mr. PCB, who became caretaker CM. And now he's a cricketer of imagine of all times, and now he's heading the PCB. So unfortunately, we've learned through our bitter experience with PDM that they only appoint people who have a shady and murky past. And it's hard to believe that in a country of 220 million, they couldn't find any other candidates. So that is why we believe in protest, because we see bad faith playing itself out. And if the ECP...
Shandana, fair enough. But the point is that there were earlier allegations made by your party chief, against certain people who have been caretaker CM, and then they were earlier retracted. Why has, they remained unsubstantiated in that kind of scenario before a name comes out? Even if you don't agree with the names that have come out, obviously you don't agree with them because there hasn't been agreement. But the point is there are names that you have also given out, and there's no way of knowing at this point who and what, who will be caretaker CM. But to, necessitate this kind of preemptive action, what necessitates it? That's my question.
The last 8.5 months and the last 40 years of PDM ruling, when have they ever done anything under the law? The by-elections, the local body elections in Sindh, did you see what happened in the DC's office? That PTI workers were attacked by goons of People's Party and the police kept on watching. We have workers in Karachi, bankers, who've been beaten half to death simply because they voted for Khan. They were not PTI workers, they were voters. So unfortunately, if you're expecting anyone, Imran Khan has tried to lodge an FIR against 3 people, the crooked general, the crooked prime minister and the crooked interior minister.
But Shandana, okay, I will come back to you. Let me phrase another question to you. If there is a name, if one of the names that the PTI has itself given out becomes, for example, this is an example, becomes caretaker CM, you will stop all agitation, you will stop all protests?
Let's put it this way. This is a government we don't trust. This is a government that tried to assassinate Imran Khan. So no, there is zero trust. And the two names we have given, we believe they are above board. So Khera Saab was a part of PTI government, a part of PMLN government, cabinet secretary. Of Mia Shahbaz Sharif thinks that Mr. Sukhera is not worthy, then why was he cabinet secretary for PMLN and for PDM? You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't say a man has no integrity and then keep him as cabinet
Chandana,
secretary.
let me come back to you. I'll come back to you. Ji, Sadiqul Farooq Sahab, is it in your opinion about is it about, what is it about? Do you think it's about caretaker CM or is it about elections? Is it about trying to mount pressure? What is it about? Because even if, like I said, if one of the names that the PTI has given out, ends up being caretaker CM, they're not saying they're going to, stop agitation. They're not saying they're going to stop protesting. So what is it about in your opinion?
Nasir Mahmood Khosa was a consensus candidate, but he refused to accept this SWAT. Then you know better, and I think everyone knows better. It has been discussed in columns, in analysis, in different at social media and in different talk shows. Now, if the Election Commission violates the constitutional provision, that provision should be pointed out by the PTI. But I'm astonished. A lady like Shandana Gulzar, here the question is different, and she refers to local body polls. She refers to the carnage of constitution. What was that when in the name of surprise, giving surprise, the Deputy Speaker rejected no trust move in April 22, and then the then Prime Minister sent an advice to President, and National Assembly was dissolved. Was that not butchery of the? Did they not butcher the Constitution? They did butcher. Now
Okay,
the
let me.
question.
I think that's a question for Shandana. I'll go
One sentence.
there. Ji.
If any clause or article of Constitution is violated, I will support PTI. But if it goes strictly according to the Constitution, then I think they should come to terms. They should accept whatever decision according to Constitution ECP takes.
Okay, let me come back to you. We also have with us Hafiz Khokhar, who is a legal expert, also advocate Supreme Court. Ji, Hafiz Saab, thank you for joining us. Overall, we're talking about the caretaker CM and the fact that, of course, there isn't a name. But the point is that there is still protest. There is still, you know, the PTI seems adamant on continuing their protesting, continuing their agitational style of politics. Do you think it's about mounting pressure? Of course, you know, they are saying that it's about elections. The kind of pressure they were expecting after dissolving both the assemblies, do you think that that hasn't really worked? How do you look at it?
Thank you so much for inviting me, and today is very important on a constitutional side relating to Punjab, because there is now session is going on in Election Commission of Pakistan, and they will decide the Chief Minister before 10 o'clock, because this is a clock time for the Election Commission of Pakistan to decide the matter. If it is being referred by the Speaker of a Provincial Assembly, it has to be decided within 48 hours. Now there is two aspects of this case. One is a constitutional aspect, and second is a political aspect. Unfortunately, since April 2022, even the election in 2018, there was a difference on both sides, constitutional side and political sides. When the previous government came into power, the opposition said that it is a selected Prime Minister and he has been brought into the power by certain quarters. And then they keep mounting the pressure on the government, and ultimately they succeeded to get a vote of confidence, no confidence against the former Prime Minister of Pakistan. But soon after, when the Supreme Court of Pakistan intervened, situation was changed, and the opposition, the PDM, they came into power, and that the Treasury side and now the opposition, they are saying it is imported government. So since April 2022, simultaneously our constitutional issues and political issues are being cropped up. The constitutional issues are being brought to the High Court and the Supreme Court of Pakistan, and they are deciding the matter. And the first time that when the PTI, they have dissolved their two provincial governments, one is the Punjab Assembly and second is the KPK. So the constitutional processes after the 18th and 20th Amendment is, that is the Article 224A of the Constitution, that if the Chief Ministers dissolve the Assembly, he will send two names to the leader.
Hafiz Saab, yes, that is the constitutional procedure, that is the legal procedure. But my question is, are we going to, you know, continue? How do you look at overall the scenario at this time? Of course, you know, there is already a statement that is being, you know, made as far as acceptance or non-acceptance of, you know, a name that comes out, if it's from the names that
we have a good experience in KPK where the Chief
that
Minister,
hasn't happened
where the
here.
Chief Minister and the leader of the opposition, they sat together and they convinced on the name of the opposition, and he has sworn as a Chief Minister yesterday.
Yes.
But now the Punjab is a political important province where so many stakes are there, and the next general election would be dependent upon if there would be a provincial election in the Punjab Assembly. So why there is a problem with this? Why the political parties, they are mounting the pressure each other? Why the political parties are not going for the situation of resolving their issues within the parties and then to interact? The basic problem with the issue is that both the sides, they have not engaged themselves on important constitutional issues. they are just making their press statements, they are coming on the televisions, they are coming just on the street protesting each other. So this is a problem, and the politics or the democracy is not a game to all about to agitate on grounds in assemblies. You have to sit together, you have to talk to each other. Both
but how are they going to sit together when already there's a statement in the field about not accepting a name that comes up by the
if constitutionally says that the speaker is from the PTI, if there was a problem with the names, he should not have sent to the name to the Election Commission of Pakistan, frankly.
But isn't he mandated to do so?
No. So there is a constitutional operation. The operation is if the Chief Minister, leader of the opposition fails, the matter goes to the committee of both sides.
So it's just rhetoric.
And now the matter has gone to the Election Commission of Pakistan. It is only a political statement, and might be if before the decision, if this was happened in the last 2018 election, it was not decided by the both parties, leader of the opposition and the Chief Minister, and finally the matter went to the Election Commission of Pakistan, and the appointee of the opposition was from Punjab side, assembly side. He was elected as an acting Chief Minister, and he conducted the elections. So there should be some, to fair to the people of Pakistan, and there should be some fair to the constitution if there is a process and the process is there. So we should not every time to go in a political side.
Right, fair enough. Before I go to Shandana, I want to go to Siddiqul Farooq Sahab. Ji, Siddiqul Farooq Sahab, I can see you've been wanting to say something.
The approach which is being adopted by the PTI is violative of the Constitution and undemocratic, just to put political pressure to get their own candidate appointed as caretaker Chief Minister. Nothing doing. If Shandana Gulzar, my sister, says we do not trust this government, then we do not also trust you people. It is the constitutional prerogative.
It's right.
Commission.
Ji, Shandana, fair enough. Whether you trust this government or not, the point is this is a constitutional prerogative and it has to happen. There's a process that has to happen, that has to be followed. And of course, when you say that you don't accept these names, there's no tangible result of that, right? Of course, it will proceed unless you plan to go to court on it. And I don't think that, there is, of course, we can get legal opinion, but it seems unlikely that the court will interfere. Am I correct?
Thank you, Mahrukh. A lot of material has been built up, so let me talk about each issue separately because we've intertwined many issues here. When it comes to the legitimacy of this entire PDM government, unfortunately, I was one of those people that was approached by a foreign embassy. I'm one of those people who was approached by PDM, by many members of PDM, and I was told what Mr. Bajwa was planning to do to Imran Khan, what they were planning to do to PTI, and I was asked to save myself and bail out of PTI and join PDM. This is on record. My Prime Minister, my chair, everyone knows this. And I have names, but I never take names on TV shows because the idea is not to embarrass people, but it is to stand on the right side of history, unfortunately. Whether people like it or not, we are a slave nation. You will never hear about an American congressman or British member of House of Lords or Commons selling out to Pakistani money or Pakistani weapons. Unfortunately, in our country, we don't have a parliament. What we have is a joke. People that sell out for as little as 5 crore, 20, 25 crore rupees, not even £1 million. Now, interestingly, the entire drama and the entire game was to gain a foothold in KPK and Balochistan to provide air bases to United States, and not for Afghanistan. In any case, they're bombing Afghanistan from drones from Middle Eastern countries. No, the issue was to sabotage CPREC, and they've done that very well so far. So I don't even want to go there. Now, the issue right now at hand, we are not in the government, in any government. And we are working with such a miraculous team of magicians that the basic constitutional right, which is the right to life and right to property, Imran Khan's right to life is threatened by this Prime Minister, this Interior Minister, the Dirty Harry, the General. And you are telling us, and you're talking about constitutional rules for making the new Chief Minister of Punjab. Do you understand the triviality of the notion that we're discussing? Do you understand that there is no right to life in this country? Your colleague Arshad Sharif was murdered for 2 bits. And this funny woman, Maryam Nawaz, and her father, had the gall to cut a cake on that day to celebrate Diwali. Last time I checked, they were not part of the Hindu community. Even Hindu MNAs in Pakistan from both PDM and PTI did not celebrate out of respect for Akshar Sharif. And this father and daughter were celebrating Diwali in London. God knows what
Shandana, I
struck
think
them.
we're digressing a little bit.
Unfortunately, what I'm telling you is the following. We don't trust because we have proof. The torture that was visited on Shahbaz Gill, the filth that was carried out on Azam Swati's wife because he dared to speak. You don't realize, MAHRUKH, which country you're living in. You're living on a country which is on the precipice of an abyss. You are falling down. You've already defaulted. You're not opening up LCs. I was sitting with officers of PTCL today and they said our company, a government-owned company, is dying because we can't open LCs. That is
But Shandana, has it really changed that much in a couple of months, this country?
Are you serious, MAHRUKH? Are you not reading please stop reading Dawn News and the news, if you'll allow me, the Jung, with all due respect. You're one of the smartest people I know. And yet it has not read a single report from any global reporter. You look at what Moody's is saying about you. You look at about all global financial watchdogs, and what are they saying about Pakistan? You have imploded as a state in the last 8 months, because I can assure you on record, you can look up any website, you can look up any newspaper, and it will tell you that on 7th of March 2022, when these crooks were putting an application for the destruction of Pakistan, the VONC, the most inorganic, falsely perpetrated, bought out of Pakistani parliamentarians, there was no talk of a sovereign default, because
to be fair, I have to go to Siddiqul Farooq Sahab. Ji. Siddiqul Farooq Sahab, I'm sure you've heard what Shandana is saying. She's saying that the whole country, has changed in in less than a year. This country has become a different country to what we lived in, less than a year ago. What do you say to that?
First of all explanation given by my sister Shandana and all stories told by her doesn't help solve the problem of the appointment of caretaker chief minister. However, as far as our economy is concerned, IK very successfully destroyed Pakistan's economy. And Sheikh Rashid, his interior minister, rightly said that their government planted mines in the economy. It is not my set. It is neither anybody like Shandana. It was the interior minister who was privy to intelligence agencies, who was privy to prime minister. He said this statement. This is irrefutable fact. So all this has been done by IK, who according to his last finance minister doesn't have any economic program, and this was stated by him on 12th or 13th of April 2022. So how can we, what is our role in this? We, on the third day when we took over, we were dictated by IMF to increase the prices of petroleum, gas, electricity, taxes, etc. And once again, let me refer to Shaukat Tareen's statement, which he made in a seminar, saying that we had to accept harsh conditions of IMF and sign an agreement. So these conditionalities were accepted by PTI government, and now we have to implement, and we are implementing. The situation obtaining in the country, economic situation, is not commendable, not appreciable. But who is the author of this? IK.
Siddiqul Farooq Sahab, let me come back to you. Ji, Hafiz Sahab, as far as the scenario at this time is concerned, certainly the acceptance, the not accepting of that is something that is of course relevant, because after these polls happen in Punjab, if it's not what the PTI chief hopes for, he's even spoken occasionally about 2/3 majority. If it's a surprise to the PTI, they will again say that they don't accept them, they will again say they don't trust them. Do you think that there is a path to some kind of stability?
Not at all. And I keep saying on different channels as a whole situation, describing in a way that until and unless all the political parties will not show the maturity and they will not come up some agenda points. First, the election reforms, all political parties are talking about. The second would be the caretaker government. And the third would be the economic situations after the general elections, at what time it will take place. If all the political parties, they would not go on these agendas simultaneously, even the results of the KPK or the Punjab Assembly, they will not be accepted by either side. The loser side will say that it was maneuvered. The winning side say that might be we would be getting more seats in a province. So the most important thing would be that all the political parties, especially those political parties, now they are in two groups. One is represented by the PDM, where all the political parties on one side, and the second is the PTI, who now as a main political party in Pakistan. They should sit together. This is the time. If they don't sit together on these agendas, the governance, the justice, the country will save another crisis. And if the political instability will continue in Pakistan, there will be again some problems like our remittances, like our problems in the foreign direct investment. We'll have the same problems of the unemployment. We'll have same the problems in the political instability. And last 1 year, since April 2022, and we are in January, and if the elections of the two provinces will held in April, and then there would be another election if going to be held on September or October after the tenure of the National Assembly or the Balochistan Assembly or the Sindh Assembly. So this country doesn't, have in a position to have such a long political process in Pakistan. And such political process in Pakistan.
The fact that whether we have that kind of resources, whether we are in a position to do that, seems to not.
It is now double.
Be of importance.
Today I have seen a report from the Election Commission of Pakistan that if there would be a simultaneous election by the provincial assemblies and by the National Assembly, the expenditures would have been different. Now the country has to bear the two expenditures. One is now for the two provinces. The same exercise will take place. The same funding will be provided by the government, and it will be expended by the other side. And then after 5-6 months later on, there would be another expenditure on the national exchequer, and at the same time there is a financial constraint in Pakistan. The containers, they are lying on the ports. We have a shortage of dollars.
But clearly that doesn't seem to matter at this time. The pressure tactics are continuing. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have for this segment. Thank you so much for being with us. Shandana Gulzar Khan, thank you for joining us. Siddiqul Farooq Saab, thank you for being with us. We'll take a short break and talk about the human rights improvements that have been recorded, and as far as the report is concerned, and what areas has Pakistan improved on. All of that today in a little bit. Welcome back. We have with us Abdul Sattar, who is DG Ministry of Human Rights. Thank you for being with us. Abdul Sattar Saab, as far as this report is concerned, what does it indicate, and as what areas and how, as far as Pakistan's improvement in human rights are concerned? Could you please take us a little bit through it?
Madam, your voice is not audible.
Can you hear me now?
A bit.
I think there's a problem with audio. Let us try to connect again, and then we will get back to you. Ji, Hafiz Sahab, as far as this, human rights are concerned, certainly rights of minorities has been a huge issue, particularly across the border. We've seen human rights violations. The report that has now come out shows improvement as far as Pakistan is concerned, as far as the way we deal with human rights. As a lawyer, as an advocate of Supreme Court, how do you look at these violations? How do you look at Pakistan's take on these things? We've largely remained balanced. We've largely tried to be fair as far as human rights violations in Pakistan particularly are concerned.
First of all, we should appreciate the government of Pakistan and the Ministry of Human Rights. They have made very good legislation for the last 2 years. Pakistan is a signatory of 27 conventions of the United Nations, and particularly relating to the human rights and the minority rights. And in this particular scenario, for the last 2.5 years, so much progress has been made from 3 sides. One is by the Supreme Court of Pakistan itself. Supreme Court, the Chief Justice of Pakistan, they have taken cognizance notice of it, and they have appointed even the one-man commission who are working on the minority rights, and he has done a marvelous job on different areas to secure and protect the interest of the minorities. The second is done by the Ministry of Religious Affairs, which is again a very important ministry in Pakistan, and his attached department is the Vacuum Trust Property Board. They are doing marvelous job on different areas for protecting especially the holy places of our minorities. And the third side, on the legislation side, the Ministry of Human Rights for the last 2.5 years, they have made very good legislation, because on 2 sides. One is it was under compulsion because of GSP Plus. The European Commission is monitoring our progress of Pakistan, and the second side is the sense of realization in our executive side, and both on the judicial sides.
Let me come back to you, Hafiz Sahab. I have Abdul Sattar Sahab again with me. Ji, Sattar Sahab, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Ji, Sattar Sahab, as I was saying, could you take us through the report that indicates that we have made record improvements in human rights? What areas in particular?
Pakistan has ratified several CON conventions, and we are reporting successfully on these conventions. Recently, we are going to defend Universal Periodic Review, that is the report of Pakistan's human rights situation for the last 4 years. Okay. And Pakistan's reporting on the core conventions has been very successful, and UN Security Council and where the TT bodies exist have applauded that Pakistan is keeping its words for the promotion and protection of human rights in the country.
But overall, please continue.
We have made legislation on the very vulnerable segments of society, like children, women, persons with disabilities, transgenders, older persons, and this legislation has been promulgated. And the results we are observing and the results we are seeing are very encouraging, and the situation of human rights in Pakistan is improving, and human rights index of Pakistan has marginally improved during the last 4 to 3 years.
Okay, let me come back to you. Please stay with us. Ji, Hafiz Sahab, overall, of course, as far as issues of human rights violations are concerned, legislation, lacunas where legislation was needed, like Sattar Sahab is saying, have been plugged. But as far as, of course, challenges to implementation and those things, do you think, of course, those remain to a certain extent?
Being a student of law, if we evaluate the legislation, we have so much legislation in Pakistan, and even sometimes it is an overlapping legislation, that there is a provincial legislation and then there is a federal legislation. But the spirit of these legislations are not going to the grassroots level. Okay. For the sake of argument, there is a very good legislation like the right of inheritance of a woman, which is, now a landmark legislation by the federal government. It has to be implemented by the provincial governments as well. So what I recommend in this scenario is that there should be an institutional framework in all these legislation should be built in a way that the real spirit of the legislation or the results of these legislation, they have to be trickle down on this particular segments of society where from the legislation was made. For the sake of argument, if we made a legislation for the women, there should be institutional framework. If we framing a legislation for the minority rights, there should be internal institutional mechanism for for overseeing the implementation side. If we are going for the disabled, for the special people, there should be an institutional framework, and simultaneously more important should be there should be awareness about all these things, about the rights, about the legislation, about the implementation. And simultaneously, it is also important on all these sides is that if there is a violation by those people who are responsible, there should be penal action against those through a criminal justice system. So these rights, human rights, are being not violated. Human rights, likewise, the fundamental rights in our constitution, they should be protected at all level. And one side, it on the legislation side, and the other side is the implementation side. So there should be a close coordination between the framework and institutional framework to get it results. The Parliament has designed for these special areas.
Sitar Sahab, making this kind of headway pursuant to the legislation as far as implementation, institutional framework, which Hafiz Sahab is talking about, is there move towards that also?
We have made many programs, we have launched many campaigns for the implementation of these legislations. We have enacted on the most vulnerable segments of society. Ministry has launched the PSDP project, Action Plan for Human Rights, Awareness Program for Human Rights. We have National Commission for Human Rights, which is an independent commission established under Paris principles. It also reviews human rights situation in the country. It has powers of suo motu to redress the violations of human rights. Similarly, we have National Commission on Status of Women, National Commission on the Rights of Child, National Commission for Child Welfare and Development. All these institutions, all these organizations are monitoring human rights situation in the country and leaving no stone unturned to improve it, and also making untiring efforts to prevent the violations of human rights in the country.
But Sitar Sahab, as far as trickling down to the masses is concerned, do you think eventually after all of this effort that you're making, it is trickling down to the grassroots level? Of course, like you're saying, the vulnerable sections of society, whether it's women, whether it's weak, whether it's special children or special people, all of these particular areas.
Ministry has produced very encouraging results with regard to the protection of human rights at grassroots levels. We have 4 regional offices in the 4 provinces: Lahore, Karachi, Quetta and Peshawar. As well as there are provincial human rights department in the 4 provinces. All these departments are implementing the legislation enacted by Ministry of Human Rights. There are treaty implementation cell in human rights departments of the provincial governments which monitor implementation of these legislations and report back to the Ministry of Human Rights. And we also incorporate this implementation status and implement in the international reports. We conclude on international convention, particularly the 7/4 convention and universal periodic review. Universal periodic review is a situation of human rights for 4 years in the country. This time we have submitted our 4th report to the United Nations Human Rights Council.
Sitar Sahab, this is clearly a topic that warrants a lot more. Unfortunately, I'm running out of time.
There are certain institutions which is being pointed out by my friend, But these institutions perform when they have to approach by the citizens of Pakistan. These legislation are very important, and they are very related to a special segment of society. So there should be a mechanism at the standing committees level by the Senate of Pakistan and by the National Assembly. They have to evaluate the implementation stated after every 3 months that they have made the legislation. What is the impact?
I particularly want to talk about the implementation side of things as far as human rights are concerned, the violations are concerned, the way that they are being implemented. But this is clearly a topic that warrants more time, and we are completely out of time. Thank you so much for updating us, Abdul Sattar Saab. Thank you for your very valuable input, but we will bother you a little more with a detailed program on this very important topic. Thank you for being with us. Hafiz Kokar Saab, thank you for joining us. Abdul Sattar, thank you for being with us today. Shandana Gulzar Khan, thank you for joining us. Sadiqul Farooq Saab, thank you for joining us. Overall, of course, as far as human rights is concerned, the issues of implementation, the issues of whether when we come down on these violations, when we try to deal with the violations of human rights, do they actually trickle down to the masses? Do the legislations actually help plug in the lacunas? All of that we'll talk about at a later time. Also, as far as the human rights report is concerned, certainly it's extremely encouraging to see that Pakistan is doing so much better in this area. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.